What's up, Steven? So here we are with lesson number 4. So I've got it written out here. We're going to talk about learning the notes on the fretboard, kind of some ways that I approach it, kind of the ways that I learned it, and some other little tips and tricks on getting all those notes memorized. We're going to talk about some inversions. We've got a couple different inversions, kind of how we can use those in our playing. And I've got a couple little licks and tricks and things here, and I've also got this cool little finger exercise that will help build up some muscle memory and some finger strength and things like that. And then we have a riff. We have an old classic rock riff that is very similar to our finger exercise, so they all kind of go hand in hand. And as always, if you ever have any questions, comments, let me know. Doesn't have to be this lesson. It could be a previous lesson. It could be something maybe down the road that you think you want to tackle. It doesn't matter. Guitar is kind of weird. It's not a linear approach when you're learning it. You kind of jump around and skip around the different parts at different times. And it's funny, sometimes something that you think is really, really difficult on guitar turns out to be really easy. And something that is really easy is sometimes the most difficult thing to learn. So let's talk about these notes on the fretboard. Speaking of difficult things, I wish there was an easy way or a shortcut to learn all these notes, and there's really not. It really comes down to just kind of spending time with it and figuring out what all these notes are. So I think in your text message you said that you knew the A or the E string and the A string, and you were kind of having trouble with these inside strings here, like the D and the G and the B. So the way that I learned, and I mentioned this in my text message back to you, was through octaves. So I already knew these power chords here. And you could call it a bar chord if you wanted to go all the way down. But I'm just playing 3 notes. So this is my power chord. This is like a G power chord. I knew the names of all these power chords from learning old classic rock songs like Paint It Black, the Rolling Stones. It's all power chords. And even as I got a little older, like into high school, I started seeing people play songs differently. So while I learned how to play Lagrange like this, I started seeing people play it like this. So I started learning that these chords are all over the place, and they're all kind of the same. So if this was an A chord, then this had to be an A chord. And if this was a C, this was a C, and if this was a D, then this had to be a D. So I was kind of learning my way around the fretboard. And that's how I started to learn the notes on the E string and the A string. Is wherever my power chord is, if this is a G power chord, my first finger here is playing a G note. Same thing here. If I'm playing an A, this first finger on this low E string, that's an A note. Same thing down here on the A string. If I'm playing a C power chord, that first finger is pushing down a C. That's the 3rd fret of the A string. Same thing with D. It's my D power chord. My first finger is pushing down a D note. E, F, it goes all the way up like that. So the musical alphabet kind of works like this. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And I'm only dealing with the natural notes. So I'm not talking about sharps or flats or anything like that. So I'm just dealing with A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And the important thing to remember is that you're going to skip a fret every single time unless you're going from an E to an F. So it's just the very next fret, or a B and a C. So like if you're playing an E string, up here our low E, the very next fret is going to be an F. That's our first fret. If you're up here still on the low E string, you're on the 7th fret, that's a B. Your very next note is going to be a C. Same thing going down. You got C, go down to a B, F, E. Same thing happens down here on the A string. A, skip a fret to get to B, and then it's B, C, D, E, F. So you just go 1 fret. Everything else you're skipping a fret for. So that's kind of a little piece of music theory right there, and you probably are already familiar with that anyway. That's kind of a common thing in music. Maybe you're not. It took me a long time to figure that out, so there's no shame in not knowing that. I had to have somebody tell me. what was going on there. So that's how I kind of started finding my way around the fretboard. And then I started using octaves. So I knew, like, if this is my power chord, if this is a G, where my first finger is, my pinky is also on a G. So I'd go like 2 frets over, 2 strings down, or 2 strings up, I guess, because you're going up in pitch. So 2 frets up, 2 frets, ah man, I'm getting all sideways and crooked here. 2 frets up, 2 strings up, and there you go. You've got your octave. That's a G, so you got G, G right there. So what I would do is if I'm trying to figure these notes out, I would like play my G power chord, or whatever power chord you were wanting to play. Let's just do G for now. And I would go, okay, G, there's my G note. Kind of visualize it in my head. 2 frets over, 2 strings up. I got my G there, and I check it. G, G, they're the same. And then to kind of make a disconnection from the chord, I would go G, 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 G. I do the same thing on A. A. Then use just my fingers. That way I'm not associating it necessarily with the chord, and I can find that A note without having to play a chord. A. C, 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 D, 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 all that kind of stuff. To get to the B string, so you got G, G. This time you have to go 3 frets over, so it's 1, 2, 3, and still 2 strings up. 1, 2, 3, 2 strings up. There's my G. That's an 8th fret on the B string. This way gets to be a little confusing at first, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. But it really does help. Once you kind of understand the concept of finding your octaves, it really does kind of help. Now, probably the easiest way, or the quickest way, I should say, maybe not the easiest, but the quickest way, definitely the most boring way to learn the notes on the fretboard, is to just dedicate yourself for 1 week going over the notes. So just E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. You spend 1 day, like 1 evening, however long you want to play at night, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. Even if maybe if it's just 5 minutes right before you lay your head down to go to bed or whatever. You just spend whatever time you have working on 1 string, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And you go all the way to the 12th fret, because that's where everything starts to repeat. And you do 1 string at a time, 1 string a day, until you get it down and you can name any note like that. So, A, C, B, E, D, G. Over and over and over again until you just get it down. Once you get your E string down, it might take you a day, it might take you a day and a half. Then you go to the A string. You get the A string down. Once you get that, you go to D. And you do that for all your strings, even for the high E. Even though the high E is the same notes as the low E, you know, you go ahead and do it anyway because it kind of looks different when you're playing. One other thing I want to mention about learning the notes on the fretboard is, I think it was our very first lesson, we talked about learning the same licks in different places. This is another way that helped me learn the notes on the fretboard, particularly on the B string. So I had this CD that I had a friend burn me way back, like I think in junior high, maybe first year of high school or whatever. And it had like a Stevie Ray Vaughan bootleg song on it. And he was doing this thing. He was going like, I got it written out here. He was going that kind of thing. In the key of A, he was going. So it's kind of working out of your pentatonic scale. And he was just kind of playing that over and over again. Fast forward a little bit later, I actually saw a video of him playing the same thing. May not have been the same song, but it was kind of the same style, same sort of lick. But he was up here. He was going. rather than... And that's when it kind of dawned on me, like, oh man, these licks are all over the place. So if I'm playing this, I'm landing on an A right here, so that must mean that this is an A. And that's, everything kind of started to click at that moment in my playing, that even if I'm playing the same licks, it's the same notes too. So going back to some of those very first licks we learned on lesson 1, I think one of them was like something kind of like that. And then we learned it here. And then here. That's A, D, A, C. A, D, A, D. Oh, what is it? A, D, A, C, A. I'm messing it up, but they're all the same notes. A, D, A, C, A. A, D, A, C, A. A, D, A, C, A. Same thing all the way up. So that's one way that really helped me learn the notes, particularly on the B string. Because whenever I started to launch into solos, and even still today, I'll tend to start them on the B string, on that root note. And then work my way down. Maybe down into like my pentatonic box or something like that. So that A note is right there on our B string on the 10th fret. And I got this lick written out, and I've got it in both positions. So lick number 1 in A, the way I have it written, sounds like this. That's our first little version of it, and it's 5 on the B string, 7 on the B string, so it's a little outside our normal pentatonic box, 5 on our E string, 8 on our E string, and I'm doing a very slight bend. I mean, I'm just barely pushing that thing up. And then I'm going back to 5 on our E string. And that 5 right there on our E string, that's our root note. That's our A note. And then I've got it written out up here. The variation of it is this. It's on the G. It goes 9, 11, 10, 13 on the B string. A slight little bend. Back to 10 on our B string. So that's 9, 11 on G, 10 on B, 13 on B with a slight bend, back to 10 on B. It's kind of a B.B. King kind of thing. You hear B.B. King start songs like this, you know, it'll, let's see, we're in the key of A, so the song may go, and then John Mayer does this stuff a lot too, where he'll go. He'll really like work these notes, bending them in and out. So that's learning the notes on the fretboard. And you get your little lick there. Bonus points for the lick. So really the best way is to just kind of sit there and learn them. That's the easiest way to do it. So now let's get on to some inversions. These inversions are pretty easy. They're pretty quick. So I think you'll get this stuff pretty easily. So all an inversion is whenever you take the notes of your chord and you shuffle them around, so then your root note isn't at the bottom of the chord. So like if you play a C chord here, this is a C bar chord in a way. So you've got your C note, and then you have this little C triad, kind of like what we did last week. We had this little C triad. So we got this little C triad, but we're putting our bass note. So this is a C right here on the 3rd fret. There's our little triad. That's just our regular old C major bar chord. And what we're going to do though is we're going to shift all these notes around. So these 3 notes that I'm playing right here with my ring finger, I'm now going to play them with my pointer finger. And then I'm going to take my ring finger and I'm going to play the A string on the 7th fret. That's an E note, by the way. So now I get this. And this is what we call a first inversion. This is an inverted C chord. First inversion C chord. A lot of times you'll see it written out in music, it won't actually say like inverted chord, but it'll say C over E. And the reason it's written like that, or reason it's called that, is because it's a C chord here, and it is over the note E. So if you were looking at like a music staff or anything like that, you would see this E note right here would be at the very bottom of the staff, and then the C chord would be above it. So that's why it's called C over E, like that. A lot of times you may be familiar with this chord. It's a D over F sharp. It's a pretty popular chord in country music. What's that? Dan Seals song? Everything that glitters isn't gold, or something like that. I don't remember. It starts like that. It goes D over F sharp, and that's actually that's a first inversion because you're playing D, and you got your F sharp in the bass up here. So that's another one. I actually didn't write that one down, but I do have this one down. This is C. This is a C inverted. D inverted is the first one I have here. So you take your D chord and you just shift it around. This is a D over F sharp too. So all you're doing is you're taking your triad here out of your D chord, and you're playing that with your first finger, and then your ring finger is coming up here and grabbing, basically, this is going to be on the A string, the same string that your root note would be on, but we're a couple frets higher, so now we're on like the 9th fret. This is a D, so we got C down here, D, there's an E power chord, same thing for E, there's our E first inversion E. You call this an E over G sharp, if you wanted to. And that's written out. I have it written out here too, what that looks like. It's a C with a slash and then an E. So that stands for, like, so for this one, that's C over E. Or D slash F sharp. That's D over F sharp is how you say it. So those are what we call our first inversions. And I'm not going to get too much into the theory of it. If you want to know that stuff, I'll be more than happy to tell you. But for now, really just knowing that that's called a first inversion, you can just call it an inversion if you want to. It doesn't matter. No one's gonna, no one's gonna like hunt you down for it. But this is stuff you hear Jimi Hendrix do. So I got a couple cool little licks right here. This is lick number 2. It sounds like this. This is in the key of E. All these next few licks right here, the next 3 licks are all in the key of E. So that's going to be this inversion right here. That's 11, 9, 9, 9. And our first lick goes like this. Super simple. I'll walk you through it. Lick number 2 is what this one is called on the paper. So we're playing 9 on our A, and we're hammering on to 11. And then we're playing 9, 9 on our D and our G string. And we're also letting that note ring, so we're not killing it out. We're not doing this. You can if you want to, but it sounds really good when you let that note ring out. So that's what I'm doing there. That's lick number 2. Lick number 3 is kind of the same variation, but we're doing this. I'll play it here for you. That's it. Trying to get it just right. There we go. That's it. There we go. Trying to get the rhythm right, remembering how I wrote it out. That's it right there. So lick number 3 is this. One more time. So I'll tell you what's going on. I'm playing 9, 9. That's on D and G. And I'm hammering on onto 11 on D, and then immediately pulling off. So I'm going. So this hand is only playing one hit. Like that. I'm playing 11 on my A string, and then I'm ending it with this. I'm going kind of the same thing we did on the first lick. That's 9 and 9 both on A and D, and then I'm hammering on the A string on the 11th fret. So I got my A and D, and then I'm hammering on the A string on the 11th fret. There we go, just like that. Make a little note right here. There we go. All right, I hope you can read this sheet. I've had a couple mistakes when I was writing this out, so some of them are kind of blacked out or written over. So the next one, lick number 4 here, this one's pretty easy. It sounds like this. This one's a cool one to kind of improvise. All these licks, 2, 3, and 4, you could all change. Are really easy to change up. So this one, we're playing on the 9th fret on D and G, and we're sliding up and back down, and then we're ending it with kind of the same thing. We're going 9, hammer on to 11, that's all on the A string, and then we're ending it with G and D on the 9th fret. So you got, it's kind of a combination of 2 of our licks here. That's lick number 4. Oh. Just like that. So I got a couple more inversions here, and then one more lick. This is the second inversion. This one is actually really easy. So you know your power chords already on the A string, like C, D, G, all that kind of stuff. So we'll start here with D. This is 7, 5, 5, just a power chord, nothing fancy. All we're gonna do is we're gonna take our first finger here, and we're gonna also play our A string with it, or our E string. I'm sorry, our E string. And we're gonna play all 4 strings. This is called a second inversion. This one's not as popular as the first inversion. That's our D. You move everything down, you've got a C. Same thing, you're playing a C power chord, but with your first finger here, you're also grabbing that E string. It's cool because you can slide it around and get this almost like, to me it reminds me of like a medieval kind of cathedral kind of sound. I think there's a Nirvana song in there somewhere that has that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's our second inversion. We've got lick number 5 here. This actually includes both the first inversion and the second inversion, and you might recognize it. It sounds like this. We'll do it again. This is lick number 5. So that's The Wind Cries Mary, Jimi Hendrix. And it starts here. This is our second inversion. We're playing a power chord that looks like this. It's between 8 and 6. So it's 8, 6, 6. And then we're also grabbing that low E string, and we're just walking that up. Then we go to 7 and 9. And that is 8 and 10. So you can just play it straight with a pick. Then we're getting into these first inversion chords where we're doing this. Basically, it's this kind of thing. This is like an E flat. But we're doing this. It starts all on 8. It's like 8, 8, 8, 10, like this. And we're hammering onto that 10 from 8. So we're basically pushing down 8. Going from 8, hammering on to 10. Going from 9, hammering on to 11. And then 10, hammering on to 12. standard chords. Just like that. So that's lick number 5. Let's get in. This video is running a little bit long, so I'm going to run through this last little exercise here, then I'm going to give you this cool classic rock riff here. So this is in the key of G. This is to help kind of muscle memory and help you kind of move things around and just get comfortable with your fingers moving in some weird positions and stuff. And it sounds like this. That's all it is. And I'm trying to use all my fingers. I'm not using my pinky though, I don't think. Yeah, I am. Okay. So every finger's kind of getting a fret. I'm using my pinky there. You could use your ring finger. It's up to you. So the important thing to remember is that we try to keep the best that we can, keep our fingers nice and close to the strings. Little variation there. The mistakes are free of charge, by the way. So that's our first little exercise here. It's lick number 6 is what I have it written here on the paper. And this is all in the key of G, so you can move this around. You can start it here on the 5th fret. You can start it up here on like 8. Kind of playing it wrong all over the place, but there we go. I'll play it really slow here for you so you can really kind of hear what's going on. It's 3 on our low E, 2 on our A, 5 on low A, or low E, sorry. 3 on A, 2 on A, 5 on A, back to 3 on A, 2 on D, 5 on A, 4 on D, 2 on D, 2 on G, and 5 on D. Real slow here. There you go. So now our last little riff here, we got Crazy Train. It kind of is similar to that little exercise. It sounds like this. Playing it kind of slow. Pick it up. And I'm just giving you this first part of the riff here. If you keep playing the main riff, it actually goes. It ends with this like D, E kind of power chord. But I'm just giving you this first part here, so I'll walk you through it and do it kind of slow. It's 2 on our low E. We go 2, 2, 4 on A, back to 2 on our low E, 5 on A, and I'm using my pinky there, back to 2 on A, 4 on A, sorry, that's 2 on E. E, E, 4 on A, 2 on E, and then we go here to 2 on our A string, and we do this. Back to E, we go 5, 4, 5, 2 on A, 5, 4, 2, all on E. Real slow here. Oh, let me start over. One more time. That's it. Promise, won't charge you for all these mistakes. written out here. It's pretty easy to figure out. And that pretty much sums it up. So again, any questions or anything like that, let me know. Shoot me a message, text message, Facebook, call me, whatever you want, anything you need, let me know. I got everything written out here. This video went a little bit longer, but there's a lot of material here to kind of cover. Learning the notes on the fretboard is tricky. It takes some time, and these inversions are pretty simple, but they can be kind of a brain twister at first when you first start playing them, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with them. And then, of course, you got these exercises, this one exercise, and then Crazy Train. And the important thing with those is just trying to keep your fingers separated, trying to use multiple fingers, and trying to keep them as close to the string as you can, so you're not doing this. It's all nice and compact. Trying to minimize as much finger movement as you can. That's going to make you play faster, it's going to make you more efficient, and it's also going to not tire your hands out as quickly. So whenever you're doing a lot of this when you're playing, which I have a bad habit of doing that too, it's either people do it, people don't, but it's important to try and keep as much movement, keep the movement down as minimum as possible. So that's it. I hope you have a good Christmas, and again, let me know if you need anything, and we will see you later.